Maybe you used to have a Tumblr account in high school. At the time, you created the account because you thought it would make you cool. Or maybe you still use Tumblr till this day. But if you don't have the app, it could be that you heard about Tumblr through word and mouth. Or it could just be that you used to have Tumblr and you no longer use it anymore as you got older. But every once in a while, a question pops in your mind and you think to yourself, what happened to that app that has the blue logo with the T icon in it? If that sounds like a question that you've been asking yourself recently, then you've come to the right place. In this video, I am going to talk about why I've been using Tumblr for more than 10 years. Yes, you heard correctly. I've been using it for 14 years. And why I don't intend to stop using it anytime soon. So some of the key questions that I'm going to cover throughout this video include what is Tumblr, why I've been using Tumblr for more than 10 years, why there are some features about Tumblr that I don't like, and what are my predictions for the future of the app. But before I get to that, hi, I'm Lunimi Maseko, and on this channel, I make self-development and educational content. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I hope you stick around. What is Tumblr? According to How Stuff Works, Tumblr is, quote, a network of millions of user-generated personal websites. It's part blogging platform like WordPress and part social networking service, letting users create and post their own original content. You can share content like reading entries, photographs, video clips, or links to other websites with your followers and friends. In simpler terms, it's just a social media network that allows you to create a personal blog where you get to share niche content that you're interested in. And based on the content that you share on your blog, you end up attracting a community of people that are also interested in the same thing, and they engage with the post that you're sharing on your blog. So let's say, for example, you're watching this and you're into fantasy books, right? So you end up creating a blog on Tumblr about some of your all-time favorite fantasy books by sharing quotes from some of your all-time favorite top fantasy authors, right? And as you're doing this over time, you end up attracting an audience of people that are into the same niche content as you. Or let's say maybe you are into content that's related to luxury and lifestyle. Well, you're going to create a personal blog on Tumblr where you get to share content related to that specific content and attract people that are into the same luxury and lifestyle content as well. So it's really important to understand that Tumblr has been around for almost 2 decades now. In fact, it was first launched in 2007, and it managed to amass about 75,000 users just about barely 2 weeks after its launch. And it went on to become one of the most popular social media apps in the 2010s. In fact, in 2012, the Financial Post reported that Tumblr was generating about more than 170 million visitors per month, to the point where it ended up being ranked among some of the top 10 most visited websites in the US. But years after that, there have been reports made that Tumblr is not as popular as it used to be, that it's not gaining as much traffic as before, and that Tumblr just doesn't have that same appeal that it used to have, to the point where it's possible that it could be removed. But is that really true? Well, let's look at what the data says. So in 2025, the Demon Sage reported that Tumblr's page traffic was about more than 141 million visits per month. And while that was a 63% decline compared to 2024, the number is still relatively impressive when you compare the number of monthly visits that Tumblr has compared to apps like Patreon or X. The first reason why I like Tumblr is because it promotes this ego death through the lack of public visibility of a person's followers. So this is a feature that I really like. And just to give a quick background, I first created my first Tumblr account in 2012 when I was in my early teens. And in a society where social media has inflated people's ego because of the number of followers that they have, which makes them think that they are superior to other people, it's very refreshing to have an app where you really don't know the number of followers that people have. It's so refreshing. It's like people don't care. People just engage with your post because they like it. They don't really engage with your post just because of the, digital status that you have, right? And that's what I really, really like about Tumblr. It also promotes this environment where people feel like they can be themselves. There is room for more inclusivity, and the lack of visibility of people's number of followers also reduces competition among bloggers, and people feel more like they're part of an online community that's supportive rather than feeling like they have to compete with other people to prove who has the most number of followers. And I really, really like that about Tumblr. That's what makes it incredibly refreshing in a society where today it's like your digital footprint, your digital um, status determines whether or not you get sponsorship deals, you get um, business opportunities online. And I just really, really love how Tumblr does not highlight that at all. And it's one of those very, very rare apps that does this. I can't even think of another social media platform where you don't see the number of followers of a person, unless like you can think of something. I would love to know, but honestly, I feel like Tumblr is the only one of the very rare social media apps where you don't see someone's number of followers. And I like to keep it that way. So the next reason why I've been using Tumblr for many years is because it promotes authenticity. And I can't tell you the number of times I was going through difficult seasons and I would just go on my Tumblr dashboard and I'll see posts from other bloggers that perfectly encapsulate an emotion that I was going through during difficult seasons. And that's what I really like about the app, because a lot of people that are on the app, because there's this environment where people are less compelled to compete with each other. It provides this environment where people are more raw and honest about their thoughts and emotions, right? And that promotes authenticity. It promotes this environment that is less performative. Tumblr promotes this networking hub online where people feel more safe to share, you know, difficult and raw thoughts that they're going through with strangers on the internet. So let's say you may be going through some of your darkest hours and you think that you're going through that alone. I guarantee you that when you go on your Tumblr dashboard, if you have a Tumblr, you are probably going to come across a post from a blogger that has perfectly found a way to describe your thoughts, and that person is thousands and thousands of miles away from you across the other side of the globe, right? And that it creates this feeling of feeling less isolated, feeling less alone, and feeling like you can relate to other people, right? And I think that's a stark contrast to other social media giants like Instagram. So my goal on this app is not to condemn Instagram. I feel like if, let's say, you're a user of Instagram, that's great. But my goal is to draw a comparison between these two apps, to really study the overall sentiment that people tend to get when they're using either Instagram or Tumblr, right? And in a previous video I posted not too long ago on my channel, I spoke about some of the key reasons why I deleted Instagram a year ago. And one of the reasons was because I felt like Instagram promoted an ecosystem where people were more likely to be performative, which is a sharp contrast to how I feel like people behave when they use Tumblr. Because I don't want to go too much on an Instagram tangent, I highly recommend that if you're interested in going down that rabbit hole, please click on the link above that you see here. But yeah, for the purpose of this video, I'm really going to focus on Tumblr. So that's the thing that I really like about the app. Tumblr really allows you to feel safe to share your raw thoughts and emotions on the internet, on your blog, right? And it's also really important to understand that when you're on the app, there's a plethora of topics that are covered. Topics that have to do with either capitalism rants, thoughts about mental health, thoughts about rants regarding hookup culture. It could also be thoughts regarding singlehood, thoughts about childhood, the struggles of adulthood, and all of that stuff. You are going to find any type of topic that you're interested in on Tumblr. And it makes it very relatable. It makes it a platform where you feel like you can relate to what people are talking about. According to Demand Sage, about 39% of Tumblr's demographic users are between the age group ages 18 to 24, whereas about 28% of Tumblr's demographic users today are between the ages 25 to 34. So that tells us that a great portion of Tumblr's demographic users are Gen Z. And I can totally understand why, because when you go on the app, like the chances are you are going to come across a post that you can relate to. Even if you think, oh no, I'm not gonna come across something, I feel like I'm alone in my struggles. I guarantee you, you go on that app, you go on your dashboard, you're gonna come across a blogger that's gonna post something that you can relate to. It's like impossible for you to go on the app without relating to a post from somebody that you may be following or somebody you may not be following. It's like impossible, uh, based on my opinion, of course. And I believe that that's what makes the app very unique and it distinguishes Tumblr from other social media apps today. So the next reason why I really like using Tumblr is because it inspires you to be the best version of yourself when you consume it the right way. So on Tumblr, there's a plethora of self development content that you can find. I'm talking a lot of self development content. And these can be reading entries about how to be more productive, or it can be reading entries about self help quotes from books that are self help books. And this can be really helpful, especially if you're somebody like me who likes to read, right? And I can't stress enough the number of times where I had self doubt and I'll come across like a motivational quote or self development quote on Tumblr that will help to shift my mindset. So it's really important to highlight that Tumblr is not a social media platform where you are incentivized to doom scroll. I believe that because you have a lot of bloggers on the app that share reading entries or quotes or prescriptive instructions about how to maybe be the best version of yourself and stuff like that, you're forced to engage with the post. It's like these reading entries force you to stimulate your brain. And it's not like you're passively scrolling a post, right? And the thing is, because there are a lot of reading entries on the app, you're not gonna doom scroll unlike other apps where because there are more visual entries than written entries like videos or photos. On those other apps, people are more likely to doom scroll, but because on Tumblr there's a lot of like reading entries as well, the likelihood of you doom scrolling is really low. But granted, I do understand that sometimes you can be working a 9 to 5 job and after your shift, you're exhausted, right? So when you go on Tumblr, the last thing you want to do is read some quotes or self development quotes all day. Like you just want to rest your mind and you just want to relax and just passively scroll. That has happened to me at times too. But I think that overall, like in the majority of the time, like when you're going on Tumblr and you're consuming the app, you're left to reflect a lot about your life. There are some reading entries that are really going to make you reflect about your life, about the type of life you want to live in the next 5 years. And you're going to come across a variety of things. It's not just self development, you can also come across philosophical quotes, you can come across existential reading entries, and a lot of those things, right? Or the reading entries about AI. The future of humanity. There's just so many texts that you are going to come across that's going to help you to reflect about your life. And that's what I really like about the app. It forces you to be the best, or it encourages you to be the best version of yourself, to engage with the post you're reading rather than like doom scrolling. The final reason why I've been using Tumblr for many years now is because on Tumblr, the majority of your audience are people that you've never met before. So the thing about Tumblr is that you will come across people from all around the world that come from different walks of life, right? And because the people that follow your blog are people you've never met before, it is going to encourage you to be more yourself, and you have less of this pressure to perform, right? You're going to be more likely to share content that you're interested in. You're going to be more likely to be yourself, and you're more likely to also maybe sometimes document your life or share thoughts about yourself that you're going through at that moment, right? And sometimes I do this too. Like, let's say sometimes I would travel, but I don't do this all the time, but it's sometimes that I do it. um if let's say I'm traveling, I would document my travel by making or curating a collage of photos of my trip, and then I'll share it on Tumblr, right? But it's not all the time that I do this, and I do think that it's really important to be discreet, especially when you're using social media and the majority of people that follow you are people you've never met before. It's really important to be discreet, um, and not excessively share personal details about your life to strangers on the internet. It's important to keep that certain level of mystique, right? And another thing about Tumblr to note is that you can submit anonymous questions to bloggers, and they'll never know who you are. Okay. And while this feature is cool, sometimes it can be very frustrating to come across a person that sends you an anonymous question and you don't know who it is. And maybe sometimes that person can be giving you a compliment or they can be giving you an insult and you never know who it is. So now that we've covered some of the features of Tumblr that I like, it's time to address some of the things about Tumblr that I don't like. No social media app is perfect, and Tumblr is definitely one of them. So, the first reason why I don't like Tumblr is because honestly, there are just way too many bots on the app. Granted, over the years, this has gotten better. I believe that last year Tumblr made a purge of bots, but there's still a lot of bots on the app. Sometimes I will randomly get tagged on another blogger's post, and when I would go on that person's profile, I will see that their accounts don't seem to be managed by a human being, right? Or sometimes I would just come across bots that will follow my account. And because I'll be interested by their profile picture, I would try to look at their blog. And when I come across their blog, they post inappropriate content or their account is empty. So to me, that signals it could be a corn bot or just a bot that was just created randomly and it wasn't created by a human being. And that is incredibly frustrating. Another thing about Tumblr that I don't like is the fact that plagiarism is at an all-time high. So because a lot of people on the app tend to share reading entries, sometimes they will share quotes from a book like we spoke about earlier, or they will be sharing reading entries about their raw thoughts or whatever. Like a lot of people I've noticed on the app, they will steal the person's post or reading entry without giving credit to the original poster or the original writer. And this is something that a lot, even blogs that have a lot of people engaging with their posts, they do this as well. And it's so annoying because it literally takes seconds to credit the person that you took the post from. And I follow blogs that post a lot of reading entries and they complain all the time about how they've been plagiarized, how people just steal their posts without crediting them. And on their blogs, the people that plagiarize, they will end up amassing a huge audience, and the people that engage with your post think that, oh, like that's the original author or the original poster of this reading entry, but that's not the original person. It's not the original writer. So another feature about Tumblr that I don't like is that it can have explicit content. So remember earlier when I was talking about how like when you're using Tumblr in a responsible way, you're going to get the benefits of it. Well, when you use Tumblr in an irresponsible way, you're going to come across content that is explicit, right? And according to this article published in 2022 from News, Media, and Society. The researchers, they were basically trying to examine the aftermath of the purge that Tumblr did in 2018 after the App Store removed the app in 2018 because Tumblr was platforming inappropriate content. Now, I'm not going to say the word, but you can read between the line and you can read the article because I want to follow YouTube guidelines. So, yeah, Tumblr purged a lot of NSFW content on its platform in November 2018 after it was removed from the App Store. And if you're not familiar with the term NSFW, it's short for not suitable for work content. So when Tumblr decided to make this purge, it incorporated an AI driven content recognition system that would end up removing a lot of NSFW content on its platform, right? And one of the way that Tumblr did this was by removing NSFW hashtags to make the social media app more family friendly, right? But after Tumblr did this purge of NSFW content, it caused a significant amount of backlash from the NSFW communities. So their main argument was that the reason why they didn't like this ban was because for many years, Tumblr was allowing people to express themselves through the NSFW community. Tumblr didn't really deplatform them. In fact, Tumblr was encouraging it. And all of a sudden, Tumblr is acting brand new by basically banning NSFW hashtags, right? And some of the Tumblr users that have complained greatly about this ban of NSFW content mainly argue three things. Number one, that the AI machine that is set in place to determine or detect NSFW content, sometimes it makes errors and it can cause people to lose their blogs because the AI system would think that the suitable for work content that they post is inappropriate. The second complaint that people have is that while Tumblr is going through great lengths to ban NSFW hashtag, while Tumblr has continued to platform corn bots on the app. And finally, people are complaining that it's not that Tumblr cares so much to protect people from NSFW content. No, its parent company, Verizon, is more concerned of not losing advertisement revenue. So specifically, according to this article, the researchers argue that usually on a social media platform, when they encourage like advertisements, sponsors that advertise their products on social media platforms, they really don't want to be affiliated with any form of controversy. They just want to promote their products, and that gives a lot of revenue to the social media app that is platforming these advertisement, right? So because Tumblr didn't want to lose its advertisement revenue, it wanted to make sure that it was a family friendly app, and that's why it took rigorous steps to remove a lot of NSFW content on the app. So these are some of the main complaints that the Tumblr users that are against the NSFW purge have said. And based on their complaints, I'm going to provide some of my observations. So it is true that prior to November of 2018, Tumblr was platforming a lot of NSFW content, and there were a lot of corn bots running rampant on the app. It is true. In fact, sometimes, like I was mentioning earlier, sometimes I would receive a follow from a blog and I was curious. I would click on this person's blog and I ended up figuring out that, okay, either it was a bot, a corn bot that was platforming NSFW content that involved adults, right? And while I do agree that Tumblr needs to do a much better job with implementing algorithmic systems to remove corn bots, and to do a better job with determining what type of blogs post inappropriate content and what type of blogs don't, to prevent people from losing their blogs, people that are not breaking the rules. I do agree that Tumblr needed to remove the NSFW content. So I'll give my personal experience. As I was mentioning earlier, because I started using Tumblr in my earlier teens, that was a period of my life where I was going through puberty, I was battling lustful thoughts, and NSFW content on the app was at an all-time high. So were there times where I went down the corn rabbit hole? Yes, I'm guilty of this, and I'm not proud of it. But it wasn't until I got to my late teens that I decided that I wanted to do a social media detox. I told myself that NSFW content was depleting me spiritually, that it really wasn't good for my personal development, and I needed to completely stop engaging with that type of content. And even sometimes when you go on the For You page on Tumblr nowadays, even if you don't mean to come across a post that has NSFW content, you can accidentally come across it, right? So I wanted to completely purge and do a social media detox on Tumblr where I would follow blogs that allowed me to get closer to my faith, allowed me to be more disciplined, and brought me closer to my goals. So that's why I did the detox. And when I was like a teenager and NSFW content was at an all time high at the time, I've noticed that Tumblr didn't have strict regulations that were put in place to monitor the amount of NSFW content on the app, right? But granted, I don't want to just blame Tumblr. I do believe that I'm responsible for the way I consumed Tumblr at the time. And I believe that social media, it exposes our dark side, and it is up to us to confront that side of us to use it more responsibly. So what are my predictions for Tumblr in the future? I think that today, more and more across different generations, people are getting tired of consuming social media giants like Instagram and Facebook, and they're looking for more purpose and meaning to their life. So, given that Tumblr, when used the right way, can be an outlet for positivity and self development, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, I think that its monthly visitations will steadily increase over the years as more people are leaving social media giant platforms. And given that on Tumblr, there's less of this pressure to perform, I think that it's going to attract Gen Z demographic users, considering that this demographic group already makes up a large portion of its monthly visitors, right? But we can only wait and see what the future holds. So if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below if you use Tumblr or you used to use Tumblr. Do you believe that Tumblr is here to stay, or do you think that Tumblr is going to be removed in the future? I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.